Not relevant whatsoever.
Well, we can talk about those articles
Sure.
if you want, but
It doesn't matter. Honestly, that article was pretty it wasn't that great as it was, that article in general. But
well, the reason why I gave that article was because it didn't have a lot to do with grammar, I
yeah,
admit, but it does have a lot to do with rhetoric,
yes.
and
I did
especially,
like some of it, but
yeah, it especially has a lot to do with um, Appalachians' perspectives on themselves,
yeah. I
and
thought some of it was kind of interesting when it came to that kind of stuff, but
yeah, the article was written by an Appalachian person, so
you would think it would have to be because otherwise why would they feel like it's relevant to them?
yeah.
So I just
Sometimes whenever you talk about Appalachian studies, you have people from like the North Harvard and the Ivy Leagues, and they always
they have no clue.
they have no clue, and anytime they talk about us, it's kind of condescendingly,
Yeah.
and they most of the time they call it Appalachia instead of Appalachia,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um,
I could see that.
but the whole article was about
Being taken advantage of too, like
right, like we feel this nostalgia for a time long past. Well, the problem with that is what was so great about the times long past.
right.
Like back in like the 50s and 60s, the days that it was supposedly so great, those are the days when coal miners were working these jobs that,
They weren't getting paid enough. It was dangerous stuff.
yeah, the constant safety breakdowns and
Mhm.
men dying in the mines. And like they would work for company script instead of real money,
Yeah. Taken advantage of to the fullest, right?
right?
And then Trump comes in, let's get our coal miners' jobs back. And I thought
Yeah,
it was cool how they added all that in there too.
yeah. I mean, I think the article explains why Appalachia took a right wing turn because traditionally Appalachia was always very democratic up
Mhm.
about the year 2000. That's when it took a very Republican sort of turn.
Mhm.
But that's exactly what the article hits on is this nostalgia for a time long past. And
And it wasn't that great to begin with. We were fed a bunch of stuff, right? Like
and the reason why I gave it was because it is very similar to our discussion from last week on AAVE,
mhm.
because Appalachian dialect has its own features. I didn't give you an article on like the different features of Appalachian dialects, but we all know what they are.
Yeah, we live here. So,
Yeah. Some other folks from the class, like Joanna or
yeah.
Azat, for instance, might not.
Yeah.
But like just different, um,
Like in Mullins, how they might
different,
have a deeper southern
the different,
draw.
the different ways that we elongate our vowels
Yeah.
or trim things off words and trim verbs.
Go
Like
worship. Not worship at church, but worship in the bathroom.
right,
Yeah.
yeah, like we put R's and everything, like Washington D.C.,
Mm-hmm.
wash the clothes. Um,
Hmm.
lots of times this stuff shows up in writing, and frankly, I would say I do Appalachian and then I do AAVE and then Appalachian back to back,
Hmm.
just to kind of show that the same sort of teaching strategies can work for both audiences. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. The coding, the code
yeah,
switching and all
yeah,
that.
right. Because if anything, like the article about nostalgia goes into how prideful Appalachian people are, right? We take a lot of pride in our heritage, I guess you could say, and that heritage includes the dialect. Like oftentimes, like if you, let's say you grew up speaking that dialect, and maybe you go on to college and then start speaking properly and stuff, and then people will start thinking that you think they're better than you, stuff like that. Um,
Right. Yeah.
that yeah, that comes from that sense of pride that Appalachian folks have, and you're not going to reach that audience. It's just like with AAVE, you're not going to reach that audience if you go in and tell them, "Hey, you're speaking." Just tell the Appalachian people, "Hey, you're speaking hick. You need to get on with the standard English." You're not going to reach that audience if you kind of take that upfront approach. So again, it would be kind of a matter of practicing things like code switching, like you said.
Right. And not maybe be condescending as to, oh, you're saying this incorrectly. Although I've had a lot of teachers, even though they talk just as bad, that's not proper English. So,
Yeah, I have read papers that very much look like they were written in the middle of the hills somewhere. Like it does show up in writing, and
yeah.
especially if a lot of folks who come here teach in West Virginia or Virginia, North Carolina, places like that, they will run into it. So that's why I spend the whole day on it. And of
Yeah.
course, folks who are not from this part of the country, they might wonder why did I give that lesson. Well, that's why, just because I know most of our students will be teaching here in this area.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we could talk about all kinds of different minority groups. We could talk about how do you teach Asian students.
Yeah.
Um, like
Same rules kind of apply though. The code switching, you can do that with anything, like you were saying. So,
right, you kind of almost have to be an insider to that culture in a way.
hmm
Like if you're an Appalachian person teaching Appalachian students to code switch, like I do feel like you will be taken more seriously as a teacher if you're kind of an insider of that culture.
yeah, that's true. I
Like
agree.
like if I would go teach in inner city like Columbus, Ohio or something, and try to teach um, AAVE speaking students the standard English, maybe I would reach that audience just because I'm an experienced teacher, but maybe not at the same time, right? I feel like I would at least have an easier
Right.
job of it, of reaching them if I was myself a part of
African American, yeah.
it, right?
I agree.
But we're all going, as teachers, everybody's going to be put in that situation where you're teaching students who,
Aren't the same minority as you, for sure.
right? And I think both days, the AAVE and Appalachian, I think both days showcase what happens if you don't have a good knowledge of linguistics. Those students suffer.
hmm Yeah, that's what I took from it, at least.
You know, like so.
Or you're being you seem condescending at the very least if you don't know how to approach it.
And even though we didn't cover ESL, I'll just say this: um, usually, the biggest problem with ESL students is I don't I think if you teach high school, you might run into this. I don't know about elementary or middle, but if you have second language learners, the biggest problem is a lot of ESL students, they come from other cultures, and in other cultures they treat academics differently. So, like here in America, when we write a research paper, um, we will borrow things, we will cite things, but it's still lots of times it's still our argument, but we're just bringing in other sources to kind of supplement our arguments. A lot of other cultures um, are much more deferential to sources than us, especially not. I don't want to sound like I'm generalizing, but especially a lot of East Asian cultures are very deferential, so they respect the authority. So lots of times, you might read something like a research paper from let's say you have a student come from China or Japan, and then lots of times it'll almost read like a string of quotes, not too much original thought there. Well, that is kind of how they teach writing in those cultures. They teach you to respect authority, and your voice isn't as important as the voice of the authorities. Compare that to here, authority is still important, but we
But
don't
it's
put
all about our own thoughts, right? Like having a strong opinion and forming a good one and making sense,
right. It's two
So,
it's two different types of scholarship. Um, I like to compare that to the medieval scholastics. If you remember from our world lit class in the medieval ages, they would often, um, lots of times in these works, they would cite Aristotle, or they would always cite some ancient Greek writer or something.
yeah,
It's the same respect for authority that they had then that a lot of the different cultures have now.
right.
Lots of time, there's been lots of cases where ESL students will get accused of plagiarism, and technically it is plagiarism in American definition, but definitely not in their definition, and it oftentimes creates a lot of confusion and turmoil.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'd say so.
So that's what I was hoping those articles would get across, but I need to find some better articles that explain
Yeah.
that. But I kind of summed it up in a nutshell on what. Well, lots of times too with ESL, some of the problems that come up are articles. Lots of times ESL students don't do well with articles. They don't know when to use a, and, or the. Um, I remember one time I was working at the writing center at WVU, and I had several ESL students come in. Like they would ask me questions like, "Do I use a here or the here?" And I would tell them. Then they were like, "Give me an explanation for why." Like, you know what? I really don't know if I have one. That was before I taught the grammar class, right?
Right. Yeah.
But I was like, I don't really know if I have one, just because we're native English speakers and we just know.
Yeah.
Um, but lots of times, um, second language learners will struggle with that type of thing as well. Um, as far as grammar goes, oftentimes article use, verbs, lots of times subject verb agreement is something that they struggle with.
Well,
Not
a lot of that's in their language is like it's already, like we dance, he, she dances, like what we spoke about before, like it's already in their that word gets changed depending on, who they're speaking about or if it's feminine or male. So it's just different.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on how similar their language is to English.
Yeah.
If it's something like French or Spanish or Italian, those languages translate to English a little more smoothly.
Mhm.
If you start getting into like Mandarin Chinese or Japanese, even languages that have different alphabets, um, that's when translation issues like that really come up.
Yeah.
So, from my experience as a teacher, um, I've had lots of students in the past from the Middle East. So I've had lots of students come from places like Saudi Arabia or Kuwait. Um, I've had students come from the United Arab Emirates. Um,
Have you had Nepali students?
yeah, I've had some Nepal and Indian students.
Mhm.
Um, those students tend to struggle with things like articles, verbs, that type of thing. But a lot of those students, Arabic is not really a language that's similar to English either because it has a completely different alphabet. So it's a language. The further French, German, Italian, and all those, they have the same alphabet as us. But once you get to Arabic and then the East Asian languages, that's when there's a big divide. So oftentimes it's the translation issues are tough to overcome.
Pretty extensive and complicated.
And a lot of those students I had when I was a very young teacher too. I wish I would have had more of those students when I'm like I am now, have some wisdom. But
Right.
a lot of them I had when I didn't have a lot of experience, and I don't just thinking back on them. I don't know if I hope I taught them right,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I think I did. But that was a long when I taught at WVU a long time ago. But I did have a lot of students from other countries, and
You gained a lot of experience though because of that as well. So,
I guess you don't get experience unless you
yeah,
get it, right?
it helps shape who you are now. So,
But typically it's the folks from Middle East and then on east that have a lot more problems. Um, not not always. I don't want to sound like I'm generalizing,
right. Yeah.
but typically those students tend to struggle a little bit more naturally. I couldn't imagine
Yeah. No kidding.
going to a language with a completely new alphabet, um, trying to be proficient.
And in college, no less. Right.
In
Like,
college, like they have to immerse themselves to speak it, listen, and write.
yeah. Like that takes quite, that takes a special person, a special mind. They deserve all the credit in the world.
Yeah, I admire our Fulbright scholars here at Bluefield. I
Yeah.
don't know if you ever met Muhammad or Fatima. You met Muhammad. He gave that
Yeah.
speech last year.
Yep.
But yeah, both of them come from Morocco. And they're over here teaching Arabic to students here at Bluefield.
Yeah. Fatima. I feel like maybe I've seen her in passing or something. I'm not sure. Like, whenever I've been to Bluefield um, for a couple things or a class, I'm not sure. Her name seems so familiar, Fatima.
Um, yeah, she's brilliant. She took my philosophy class last semester. She's a really brilliant person. So,
Oh, I believe that. I bet you that was a really cool perspective to have too, you know?
yeah, because there's a couple times I let her teach because she had perspectives on Arabic philosophers that I wasn't very
Yeah.
knowledgeable about. So,
I
I,
love that you recognize that you're not so proud that you can't, you
yeah,
know that it's your class will gain more value from it, or get more from it from someone who has more knowledge of something. And so I'm glad that you do that.
yeah, I don't hesitate to admit when I'm not the expert.
Right. And not all college professors are that way.
Right.
They have a lot of pride. So I've met a few of them actually. So
Let's talk about. I at least want to cover the grammar presentation today during
okay.
this. So let's go ahead and talk about that.
All right.
But
Let's see.
I think our little conversation there was a good one, and even for others to listen to, because
Sure.
I did want everybody to get some, at least put it into your brain how you would handle teaching an ESL student.
Right.
Because they do have a lot of problems with grammar, and they do have a lot more questions than English speaking students do about grammar.
Yeah. I'd say
Because
so.
if they don't know the grammar, they don't know the language, right? So
Yeah.
they have lots of questions, and oftentimes we're ill equipped to answer them.
Yeah, because maybe we didn't consider that, like you said, because we're already native English speakers. So
So hopefully, this class, if you do have those types of students, that'll hopefully this class will help prepare you.
yeah. Okay.
So,
Getting my pen and paper ready to take notes for this.
so this presentation, you guys will be doing the whole class will be doing this the week of April the 8th to the 12th. So at some point that week, if you and Joanna want to just do it in class during our class time, that's fine.
Hmm.
But for everybody else, the one bad part about it is about this setup is usually um, these presentations usually give in a live class. Usually they're very informative and usually it leads to good discussion. But I suppose for this type of class setup, um, it'll just be me asking questions.
Right.
But what I
But
want, go ahead.
potentially, Joanna. Potentially.
Well, you'll at least have Joanna and Joanna here,
Yeah.
but the people taking it completely online will just have me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're going to be doing this that week, and I will be very liberal with how I create the schedule. I will work around everybody. I'll work up in the evenings and when people are available. So, and I will. The only evening I'm not available is Thursday evening. So, but I can meet anytime Monday through Friday that week to do your presentations. I would just tell everybody email me and rather than me sending out a big list of times or whatever, I'm just going to say tell everybody email me
Yeah.
when works for you, when works for your work,
Mommy.
and
See?
we'll do a one on one. I'll do a one on one Zoom for with most everybody, but you guys I can do here in class.
Right.
Put
Um,
it on the window.
which day do you think you would rather do it that week, Neil? Do you think you'd rather do it on the Tuesday or the Thursday?
It really doesn't matter. It just depends on so the work that we have coming up for that. But you said likely we'll just be working on the presentation stuff as it is for the next couple classes, right?
Well, we're going to start talking about the research project too. I'll probably
Okay.
start talking about that heavily next Thursday.
Okay. So I would say either I would wait to talk to Joanna too, but probably Thursday. I'm not really
Yeah,
100% though.
it's always good to have that
Yeah,
extra day.
because I don't want to speak, for her. You know what I mean? But I also feel like that way it gives us more time to get it taken care of.
We'll just say that I'll knock you guys out of the way that Thursday.
Okay. So that what day is that? That's going to be the 8th. It's the 8th.
Yeah,
April 8th. April 8th.
no,
Okay.
April 8th actually on a Monday, so
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm
that,
sorry.
that Thursday would be
5th,
11th.
6th. You're right. I'm sorry. Let me see here. I'm trying to pull up the calendar is what it is, and I'm not looking at it the right way. Yeah, that'd be on a Monday, the 8th. So that Thursday would be the 11th, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want us to do it on the 11th, or do you want us to do it on the previous?
The 11th's good.
Okay, April 11th. Okay, got it. And it can change. I mean, I'm just saying, this is just coming from me. So if Joanna wants to do it on Tuesday, we will. But
Gotcha. And anybody else, if I know people haven't been joining the Zooms, but if anybody else just can make it and wants to knock it out,
right,
you're always welcome to come and knock it out.
we don't bite.
You'll probably get more out of it. You'll get better questions that way if you get it from everybody and not just me.
Yeah, we don't bite. So
the purpose of this, I organize this purpose audience conventions. That's usually how, whenever I do anything rhetoric, it's usually how I try to set up a prompt. But you're going to do a 10 to 15 minute presentation dealing with grammar in some respect. The purpose of this assignment is to put all the theory that we have discussed this spring into practice. You can design and execute a lesson for a classroom or perhaps a business type of setting, depending on your audience. The ideal is that your presentation can be something useful and pragmatic. So I gave the option there because sometimes people take the class and they're not education majors. But I would say, since everybody in this particular version of the class is an education major, it's probably better just to design a lesson plan and execute your lesson. Tailor your audience, tailor your lesson for whatever audience you're going to be working with. So, like maybe if you're designing a lesson for an elementary school audience, try to put yourself in that elementary school teacher mindset, right? You don't want to be going too nuts with the concept.
right.
But if you're designing for middle school, try to imagine middle school children as your audience. You're designing for adults, like maybe, like I know Joanna wants to be a college professor, right? So you can imagine being me or something, right?
Yeah.
So put yourself into the shoes of whatever audience you're working towards. Try to keep, whenever you do your presentation, try to keep your concepts, and as well as like your vocabulary, your diction when you speak. Try to keep those things tailored to that audience.
Gotcha.
So like, don't, if your presentation is grammar for third graders, right? You don't want to be
Talking about diction and whatnot.
you probably don't want to be talking about like grammar 1 or grammar 2 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to get too nuts with it. But in a very literal sense, anytime teachers do these types of projects, they try to get fancy with the audience. But I always say, in a very literal sense, your audience is me.
Hmm.
You will conduct the presentation with me live on Google Meets. So I, w- I would I would prefer if everybody's able to turn your cameras on to do the speech. I think that would be better.
I'll be sure to have my phone for that then.
Yeah, have your camera on when you do your speech. Um, I'm going to insist on that actually because I won't be able to tell your body language and stuff like that
Gotcha.
if you don't have that on. Um, so in a very literal sense, your audience will be me. So I'm not. You don't have. Of course, we're talking about Zoom here, right? So you
Hmm.
guys know how Zoom is. You could be wearing your pajama pants, but as long as you have a nice shirt on or something, you're good.
Right.
Right? Lots of times I do that. I'll be teaching in pajama pants
Nothing wrong with that.
when I get up to go to the. When I get up to do something, I'll always turn my camera off so nobody will see my pajama pants. But
I'm
yeah,
sure there's been a time or two where you've forgotten.
probably.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, just maintain a professional ethos. Considering your audience is me, you don't have to be so uptight about it. You guys all know I'm pretty easygoing, but just try to imagine your audience as a professional one. Just imagine if you're given an audience. Imagine you're in a classroom doing this lesson, and imagine I'm your principal observing you. Just we'll put it that way,
Hmm.
right? So, which will happen once you guys start working in schools. You will have your principals come and observe you 3 or 4 times a year. So this will be good practice.
Hmm. Well, some of them should have practice anyhow. Well, most of us, because of the education courses we've taken. So,
Right. So this is a good chance to put what you've learned in those other classes into practice here with me.
hmm.
So conventions of this, you'll have a slide. I'll give you everybody the choice to have a slideshow or a handout. So
You don't want us to turn in a lesson plan per se.
no, no, I want a slideshow or a handout. So do something on. If you do slides, you can use any of those programs. You can use PowerPoint. Uh, pre, yeah, the Prezzies. Uh, Prezzies are like a fancier PowerPoint. Like it has lots of like more visual effects and stuff. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-mm.
Uh, Google Slides, Canva.
Hmm.
You can use any of those programs, whichever one you're comfortable with. Or you can just design a handout on Microsoft Word if you want. But the handout should probably be no more than front and back if you do that option. 199% of the time, I've taught this class twice now. Everybody's done PowerPoints or Prezzies or something. I don't think I've ever had anybody do a handout. Um, I need to update this part. Um, ask you, um, just submit it to me the day you give the presentation.
Okay.
Um, I'll cut this 9 a.m. part out. Submit to me the day you give the presentation.
Submit day of presentation.
So I will put up a Dropbox for it, but also email it to me so that I can distribute it uh, out to everybody too.
Okay.
I want to kind of have a, even though you're doing the actual presentation part with me, I do want to do something like um, everybody's gives their everybody will give their slideshows, and then maybe we can have like a discussion board post about it.
Okay.
You want to do something like that too. Um, so a good PowerPoint or handout effectively communicates your information without overwhelming the reader. So you guys know, if you have ever sat through somebody giving a PowerPoint before, if a person has too much information on a slide, what happens?
People get lost in it.
And you get lost in it. You stop listening to the speaker
Mm-hmm.
while you're trying to read the slide. So you want your slides to be quick and snappy, especially if you're designing it for children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, don't,
Keep
yeah,
keep it engaging.
too much is almost as worse as too little.
Yeah.
So try to keep that nice golden mean, that nice balance between um, too much and too little. You want solid content on your slides, but you don't want to write a dissertation on your slide at the same time.
Right.
Uh, you want to use good document design strategies. So use things like subheadings or bullet points. Uh, usually, usually if you have like a bullet point starting starting directly with an action verb is often a good strategy. So they say that's a good strategy. That's a good strategy as well if you do something like a resume. Like if there's a skills part under your resume, you always want to start with action verbs, right? So maybe maybe your skill is good on Microsoft Word.
Yeah.
If you just want to say that on a resume, you would want to start it with an action verb. Um, get proficient at Microsoft Word, right? So you want
Yeah.
to start with that verb.
Let
Um,
me see.
so just be very attentive with how you do your slides. Your time is going to be about 10 to 15 minutes. I'd like the lesson to be about 10 to 15 minutes. Um, lots of times in the past, I've had people didn't really plan that, and they would come in and give like a 4 or 5 minute presentation. If you're that far under, I will penalize you for it. Okay, I'd like you. I like it to be about 10 to 15. Usually, what happens when people go wrong with these, they will use the PowerPoint, and then you'll just read off the PowerPoint. You don't really teach that way.
Well, yeah, because what that's another thing. Like I said, a lot of us should know how to do this already because of the lesson plans that we form. You can't just read off the lesson plan exactly when you're teaching to a class. You have to have in your head what you're going to do, and a lot of times it's not. You can't always plan for everything. Things change, So because I know any lesson plan I've ever formed has never, and I've taught in front of a class, has not always worked 100% the way I've wanted it to, but it's always worked out. So you can only use it you're supposed to use that lesson plan as a guide. You know.
Yeah, use your slides as talking points to kind
Yeah.
of go off the cuff, go off the script.
Right.
You're not reading from a script. You're communicating. Think of the PowerPoint like it gives somebody a nice visual while you communicate.
Yeah.
This stuff sounds obvious, right? But it really isn't,
No, it's not, and not unless you have some experience with it. So.
right?
And hopefully most of us have in this class. Like you said, most of us, if not all of us, are education majors. So
And some of you guys are further along than others.
that's true. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, make in order to know if you're going and doing enough time, practice it before you do it. Get on your phone and record yourself doing it. And they'll know exactly how long you went.
Right.
So make sure the presentation has some practical and pragmatic benefit. So you can maybe you would do some. I mean, you could do something. The range of topics you can pick from are enormous, right? You can teach something like comma splices and run-ons. You can teach articles, um, anything from the prescriptive grammar unit. But you can also use stuff from our theory unit. So, like, let's say you wanted to do something like a code switching lesson, or or a lesson on. You can even do something like teaching people how to grade papers correctly or something, right? If
Right.
you want to imagine like a college audience, anything related to our course is open game here, as long as you turn it to some type of use for whatever audience you're working with. So you can keep it as simple. You can make it as simple or as complex as you like, depending on your audience.
Right.
It can either be from the grammar unit, or it can be the straight up grammar unit, or it can be from our writing theory unit. Some of the best presentations I've had have come from the writing theory unit. I've had lots of people do stuff on AAVE and Appalachian English and stuff like that before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then this goes without saying, but you want to practice good grammar yourself. If you're giving a grammar presentation, you're not
Absolutely.
grammatical yourself. You're not going to be taken seriously. I have had people before have disastrous looking slides
Hmm.
with not only typos, but also things like comma splices and run ons and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then just maintain a professional ethos. At least look good from the waist up, right? Speaking a loud and clear voice. Try not to mumble. Um, you want to make eye contact with your camera if you can, right? Um, don't be bobbing and weaving and all of this while you're speaking. This is actually a lot easier than giving a presentation in front of a real group of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like if you were giving a real group of people, maybe you're doing all this weird nonverbal stuff um, that you couldn't get away with if you were doing it in front of people, whereas you can if you're in front of a computer. But yeah, just don't get too uptight about it. Um, I won't bite. Okay, I'm not. I'm not. I'm not that um, threatening of a presence. So yeah, just any time during the week of April 8th to 12th, whatever day that you give your presentation, send me your slides that day. And even before you give your presentation, if you want me to take a look at your slides or something,
Mommy, see?
Right.
It's not.
yeah, you can feel free to email me, and I'll take a look at slides early or something like that. So you guys will actually be doing this while you start your research projects too. Okay, so I'm going over this now because it doesn't hurt to get an early start while we're not doing much. Okay. You got questions, Amelia? You're kind of the speaker of the house here. So.
No, I mean, you've made it pretty clear. I mean, in fact, this would be, for a lot of us education students, this may even be a breath of fresh air because we're used to having to have these really thorough lesson plans, and this is like, yes. In a way, it's kind of like, yes, this isn't as much work as we're used to having to do. I'm not saying it's not going to be work, so don't take me wrong. This is work. But absolutely, it's definitely different. So we've got the PowerPoint that we're going to have to, or a handout, but it needs to follow along with whatever we're teaching. We need to keep our audience in mind, whatever grade level or whatever lesson we're trying to teach to them. So make sure our vocabulary matches that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we're supposed to always dress professionally anyhow, being education students.
Yeah,
But
I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of people making comments on social media and stuff like, my kid's teacher was wearing sweatpants today. How
oh wow,
unprofessional.
they'd be in a lot of trouble if they were in school, at least, for us. Now, if it was like Spirit Week at school, like, I've been to my kids' school and it's been Spirit Week. That's about the only time I've ever seen the teachers dress. That's the least professional I've ever seen them dress. Let's put it that way. Like usually it's, oh, they're wearing jeans or whatever, but that's not a big deal,
Yeah.
But that's usually only during Spirit Week. So yeah. But anyway, so people should, especially as an education major, this is all stuff they should already know how to do. And then just, make sure our lessons are not verbatim necessarily on the slides, that we're using it just as bullet points for our lessons. So, and that it's got to be 10 to 15 minutes minimum. So, perfection.
Just as a warning, I will record the sessions
Uh-huh.
so to make it easier for me to grade.
Gotcha.
Because I don't want to be sitting there during your session writing notes and stuff. I'd rather be actively listening and engaging with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I will record the sessions so that I'm able to grade them easy later.
Okay.
I might do something like even post them and then let you guys be able to watch them or something. I might, yeah.
Have, our fellow classmates give us some feedback or whatever.
Yeah. Couldn't hurt.
No. Shouldn't hurt at all. Okay.
So if I do that though, I will make them private videos on YouTube.
Gotcha.
Where nobody else can watch it except people in our class. Okay.
Gotcha.
And the other thing I'm not going to go in depth with it today. That's what I'm going to do next Thursday. But I do want to just mention really quickly your research projects.
Okay.
So I haven't ironed down all the dates and stuff yet. Yeah, I actually have. So the dates that we're looking at for your research project, the first date will be your annotated bibliography, and that will be due on Tuesday, April the 16th.
Okay.
You have about 2 weeks to come up with a topic and start researching your topic. And next Thursday will be when I show you, especially go into detail about how you look for sources, what databases to look in, and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. So right now, are you seeing this, Emilio? That shows these dates, the proposal.
No, I can't see them right in front of me.
Okay, I thought I was sharing my screen. Hold on.
Up with a topic.
Yeah, so the proposal and annotated bibliography part, and I'll explain more what I mean by all this. I'm sure you guys have done annotated bibliography.
I have for you.
But that that in a nutshell is you're pitching whatever it is. You're giving me a sneak preview of what your paper is going to be about.
From a reliable source.
And then your bibliography part is your sources.
Yeah.
You give me a citation of a source, and then a
What their
summary.
paper's about.
Yeah, and a summary and analysis of your source.
Somebody that's been their peers. They've been.
So you'll pick one of these controversial things we talked about in our theory unit, probably. So like you can talk about about AAVE or Appalachian students or ESL or grading or any of the contract grading or any of these things that we talked about would make
Right.
any of those things would make for good research papers.
Okay. I'm trying to think of there's something that I've been thinking about a lot, like people saying I've read this a lot actually, how in school nowadays they don't really have a when they teach grammar or writing and reading, they've yet to really find something that when researched is actually effective for teaching children. So I've read about this in lots of classes, like one of my reading classes, my education reading classes. Um, there's been it's mostly just been my education courses, like randomly, just a random education course or my reading courses, or even teaching English to elementary students. That's another one. Like there's been a few different classes that I've read that they don't really have anything that's research based that they use that's actually effective for teaching children how to read. So I think that's interesting. That'd be, I guess, an interesting thing to research. I don't really know. Like, but why do they keep buying these, things for schools to use, these programs, and they're not even really effective,
Well, we have that same problem here at Bluefield State in our English 101 and 102 classes. We have this software from Hawks and it's supposed to teach students about grammar.
Mm-hmm.
But we've talked about in this class how busy work is often not good
Right.
teaching strategies. So I keep telling my colleagues this Hawks isn't good.
Yeah.
But they don't really listen to anything I say. So
Is it just less work for them or something?
yeah,
I'm not trying to.
That's why. Yeah.
I gotcha.
I think a few of them just generally like it for some reason.
Yeah. I guess it makes their life easier or something. Who knows?
Well,
but
it's very much along gender lines. Weirdly,
really,
all the men in our department hate it. All the women in our department love it. I don't know why. I don't know if gender has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
That's that's.
It is funny though that you say that.
Yeah.
But I mean, are they? I mean, well, obviously you guys are professors, so you have to have some sort of education course, I'm assuming, on how to teach.
Well,
not necessarily.
I'll cut this part of the video out.
Okay, yeah.
But the problem with our department is I'm really the only one. Well, not the only one. I'm the only one teaching 101 or 102 at least that has an English doctorate.
Gotcha.
The rest of them have like a communication or speech degree.
That's totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I feel like I should be the one that's being listened to on this. But,
yeah. If anybody would know, it'd be you, right? Like.
But
also teaching in general, like, not everyone, well, it's kind of like, elementary and high school and middle school teachers, they don't have to take education courses. They can just take the praxis.
Yep.
But that does not make them an effective teacher either. So it doesn't mean they're going to be any good at it. Um, yeah, so I mean, it could be the same thing applies for, college professors. Maybe they just have a lot of experience in what they're teaching, Doesn't mean they're any good at teaching it.
Yeah, like when I first came here, they tried to sell me on all this stuff, and they didn't really sell me on it.
Yeah.
Like I think I think they all know it. They just let me stay in my lane and do what I want.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what you do is effective in my opinion. So, I mean, can't be wrong about everything.
Yeah.
And like you said, us education majors, we know we've been taught that busy work's not good. It doesn't teach.
Well,
It's
you
not
you guys will
effective.
you guys will run into this problem eventually. You'll get a curriculum shoved down your throat that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the kids. Okay, my sister teaches at T4. She's an aide. She doesn't actually teach there, but okay. T4 Academy only has so many educators, depending on the amount of students that they have. T4 is for children that are having issues in school. Like, it's basically alternative school for elementary. Like they had behavior problems and whatnot. They can't be in a traditional classroom. Um, they have to, be taught how to act correctly or whatever. Um, and whatnot. So they're just given a bunch of busy work most of the time. And these kids are already behind. So it's not really helping them, you know. I don't know. It makes it tough. It's just tough. So,
Yeah, as teachers, you'll run into that. You'll get the curriculum you don't agree with.
yeah.
The thing with college teaching is, though, that I think all professors have the freedom to make their own curriculum.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a college professor, you kind of earn that right, right?
Yeah,
In a way.
I like to think so.
Yeah, I mean,
Some departments like to micromanage more than others.
yeah.
Thankfully, mine doesn't micromanage me, so I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as teaching education, majors are concerned, you're doing a really good job with not, being in that department.
And you
So,
guys got some good folks over there. Have you taken
what is it? Sorry, you broke up.
have you taken Professor Brittany Anderson yet?
No, not yet. Haven't
Doctor
had her.
Doctor Anderson.
Nope, haven't had them either.
She took Amanda Banks' place.
Oh, really, Dr. Banks?
Yeah, Doctor Anderson took her place. She has been
Um,
a she has been a friend of mine forever now. So
yeah,
you guys got a really good one now. She's fantastic.
I've
Been
had
a good friend.
um, I've had some of the same instructors, a lot of the same ones, not all of them though. Like Dr. Thompson, I've had he's kind of hard. He's strict. He's the one who failed me um for being sick that one time.
And
And let's see, I've had a lot of Dr. Sargent Martin, Dr. Sargent Martin. She's had her a lot. There's just been some professors I've had more than others. I'm trying to think. There's one is new to me that I just had this semester, but she's actually been a part of the education department. I guess you have to be higher up to get her. Um, oh my gosh, starts with a T. Her name. I haven't had her enough yet for me to actually be like, oh, this is her. I'm trying to think of what her name is right now.
you
Let me
know,
go to my desk.
whenever
What
you
is?
get whenever you get Doctor Anderson, tell her I said hello.
Oh, Doctor Stiltner is who I'm talking about. I'm thinking her name starts with a T because her first name starts with a T. So
And
yeah.
we were in the student government together at Concord back in the
Uh
day.
huh.
So now we both teach at Bluefield State instead of Concord, which is funny.
Yeah.
But
How can you have a theme? Oh my gosh, I just realized something. I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with what we're and I'm not trying to, but I'm thinking we had to do a unit plan, and we had to have two English language lessons, two math lessons, and then a science and a social studies lesson. And it says where it's a thematic unit, they're supposed to all correlate with one another. So I'm like, I guess in a way you could have, but like, huh? I'm teaching science, math, social studies, and English, and they all have to kind of go together as a theme. So I
Glad I
guess
don't
like
have
on the same topic or something. Like,
glad I don't have to do that.
well, yeah, I'm just seeing this. I'm like, well, I just failed that. I feel like I just failed that. I'm getting feedback here, and I'm looking at it for a second, and I'm like, oh boy. Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
the actual paper will be due on Monday, April the 22nd.
Okay, Monday, research paper, Monday, April 22nd.
I'm gonna build up. I'm gonna explain how to do the bibliography, how to do the research paper, and classes leading up to that.
Okay.
Um,
The
but
annotated bibliography is on the 16th, you said. The actual research paper's the 22nd.
right,
Okay.
and before both of those, I will have peer reviews on for our class. So I'll have you guys post them early. Then you guys can give each other. I actually think peer review will work for our class because you guys are all advanced students, and you're going to do more than just kiss each other's butts.
Yeah.
So
Give some good feedback as to what they think is this a good idea or not. Like for a research paper.
mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll have you do it for the bibliography and the research paper. So like you guys can be like, I don't think you got enough good sources. Or
Right.
maybe you look up a source on this, or and then like whenever you guys peer review each other's papers, hey, I think your counter argument wasn't developed enough,
That's a good idea.
or maybe you need to organize better. Like you guys, I feel like you guys will be able to help each other out.
Yeah, yeah.
Peer review. I don't trust 101 or 102 classes to do good peer review. I think you guys will.
All right, peer review. Perfect.
So I'll of course give everybody participation points and stuff for doing that. And after April 22nd, you'll be done.
Yeah. Wow. It's coming up quicker than you think.
Yeah, I've never been. It's nothing. It's not nothing to do with any particular. I'm just ready for the summer. I'm really ready for it this year.
Yeah. Every summer I've done classes, but it's like I only have to take 2 of them anyways to be considered full time. So it is still a break. And, it's not the whole summer. So I don't get it's a little bit of a break. So,
I'm going to do my summer Shakespeare again this year.
yeah, that'll be cool. That's where you do theater, like, people were doing like theater West Virginia type thing.
Yeah, we had the summer Shakespeare at Concord's campus
Yeah.
every summer. We're going to do it this year at the Chuck Mathena Center in Princeton too.
That should be cool.
If you don't have nothing going on at the end of July, come out.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you invited me last time, and then and my car was messed up too. I had to get a new car. So, but yeah, definitely remind me.
We're doing the play As You Like It this
Yeah.
year. It's one of his comedies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I was going to say that one's not a tragedy there.
It's a great comedy. It's
Yeah.
lots of like gender swapping themes and stuff like that in it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was like that back then anyway. The men played the women or whatever. So
I play the depressed guy who's the party pooper in the play. That's who I'm going to play. So
I think you could do really good with that. I'm not saying that, that's how you are. It's just because you have a good sense of humor. And it's just kind of like your voice is kind of monotone in a way, It's perfect.
Yeah, I got that. I'll have that dry. I have a lot of like dry humor jokes and stuff.
Yeah. No, but you're not. I mean, I get it. Like, you're fun. I think you're funny. Like, I laugh all the time in your class when you make little comments. Sometimes I'm muted and I'll just be cracking up. So, but yeah, I could see that being good. That sounds like a lot of fun. Okay,
All right, Amelia. So next Tuesday, we'll have our last article discussion day.
last pressy.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
next Thursday we will start discussing the annotated bibliography.
Okay, next Tuesday, last pressy.
Yeah,
All right, I'll see you on Tuesday.
see you, Amelia.
All right, bye. Have a happy Easter.
You too.
Thank you.